What's poppin', guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time, it's your boy MXP back with another video. And today we're talking about third-party support, third-party sales, third-party interactions, how Nintendo's kind of handling that with the Switch 2. Now it's a little less than 2 months since the Switch 2 has been out. I did do a 1 month with the Switch, kind of short if you guys want to check that out. But I wanted to talk about is the sales. I know it's kind of early, but just kind of what the sales are looking like, what we might expect maybe moving forward, because a lot of third-party support is older games and games that have been out for a little bit, so maybe that'll look different. I want to talk about game key cards. I want to talk about the 64 gigabyte cartridges, everything that everybody's been talking about, but kind of what Nintendo might be changing in the near future, maybe next year, or working towards doing that. So if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and let's get right into this video. So starting out, this is from Polygon. So this was from mid-June, so a couple weeks after Switch 2 came out. We got a few sales numbers, but no exact numbers, but you could kind of see like the chart a little bit and just reports from different developers and things like that. So this was saying, as reported by the Game Business, stats for early Nintendo Switch 2 show that adopters in the United States and UK are mostly purchasing the console for games like Mario Kart World, which makes sense, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Apparently, most games outside of those developed by Nintendo are selling in very low numbers. The Game Business quotes one anonymous publisher saying that the numbers are coming in below their expected estimates. And I'm kind of curious to know what these third-party developers expected it to sell, especially since it's a new console. And yes, it is selling a lot of units, but it's like, okay, how much do you think people are buying at this point? It's early in the life cycle, but it says the one exception is for Cyberpunk 2077, which was a much anticipated port. And we know Cyberpunk was pretty messy at launch, but it did launch completely on the cartridge physically. It did have this Phantom Liberty, used a 64 gigabyte cartridge. So a lot of people were kind of grabbing it behind the novelty of it, plus people that just never played it. And then also the fact that, hey, other games aren't completing cartridge. So that kind of worked in CD Projekt Red's favor. But it says the very low sales numbers of other third-party games stands in contrast to the eye-popping numbers for, say, Mario Kart World, obviously, with a staggering 80% of console sales had Nintendo's Racer bundled into the purchase. There's a good chance the other 20% got Mario Kart as well, just purchased it separately. So yeah, so they're tracking the people that bought it together, and then some people, maybe you bought it separately or got it later or not at the same store or anything like that. So it says here, there are a few reasons things could be unfolding this way beyond the obvious factor that the reason to buy Nintendo consoles for the Japanese developers exclusive games. Many of the titles available at launch are ports for games that are already playable on all major platforms, including the first Switch. And then you have the Switch 2 being a higher price tag than most people expected, which is close to the PS5, Xbox. Some PS5 models and Xbox, the Series S, you could get for cheaper, and things like that, accessories prices going up and things like that. So yeah, I pretty much wasn't that surprised. I was a little surprised because I'm thinking, okay, a lot of people's biggest knock on the Switch 1 was, hey, there's no a lot of the third parties aren't coming, or the third parties that are don't look that great. And I mean, we can look at, remember what Mortal Kombat 1 looked like on Switch 1. We seen what Hogwarts Legacy looked like on Switch 1. So you would think, with the third-party developers, like, okay, we're going to get in the Switch as soon as we can. We've seen with the Direct all the support and third-party developers showing there. We got games like Street Fighter 6, Cyberpunk, Split Fiction, just a lot of third-party support out the gate. So it is a little surprising to see. So if you're going to eShop right now, you go to best sellers. So this actually shows you, this is the top selling titles over the last 3 days based on revenue. So not just, the number of sales. So we got Donkey Kong Bonanza at number 1, which isn't a surprise. It just launched. Mario Kart World, Cyberpunk at number 3. But of course, like we said, Cyberpunk selling well as we assume the physical edition selling well because that's what people wanted. But it's also, it's a more expensive game, right? $65. No Man's Sky like I mentioned, is doing well. Is on Switch One. Only it's on sale too, $24. But then you see Mario Kart, Tony Hawk's 3 and 4. That's a surprise. But then you got upgrade pack for Tears of the Kingdom, WWE 2K25. Then you got Tears of the Kingdom again, 2K25 again, Breath of the Wild, upgrade Fantasy Life, Split Fiction. So that's another third party. So it's looking a lot better right now. But again, like where's Street Fighter 6? Where's Split Fiction should be a little higher. I guess maybe it's lower because there is the friend pass and things like that. But yeah, I mean, where's Yakuza Zero is supposed to be a big thing? Where's Shadow Generations? Like all these games that launched aren't anywhere in the top 15. And of course, this maybe look different in the first when the games when the Switch 2 first launched, but the fact that they weren't even mentioned for the June sales says a lot. So now, getting off of sales, let's talk about game key cards, right? So here we are with the game key cards, and for people that don't know, the game key cards, what was the big controversy around them is the fact that they are a mixed breed between physical and digital. So they're a physical card, but you have to download the game. There's nothing technically on the game. It just gives you access to download the game on the internet, which honestly is technically what all these discs and stuff are on Xbox and PlayStation, where it's a license to, download the game. But anyway, a lot of people didn't like this because the Switch was such a big collector's, thing. You see behind me all the red cases going across. Like, no one really liked this, especially collectors, because they were like, what was the point of this? Like, we're buying both. Some people are double dipping, buying physically and digitally. And then you have these key cards, which it's cool that it's downloadable, but you can still trade them to people or sell them if you want to. But Nintendo put out a survey in Japan, and this kind of shows like it's good that they're listening to the fan base, because it says here, okay, first of all, they're asking, okay, do you guys know what a game key card is? Like, it exists, because some people don't. Then they're asking, okay, what about do you know the characteristics of it? Like, how's it work? Everything like that. And then the last question is, after reading everything, the explanation, everything, what would you choose between a game key card and a download version? So it doesn't say anything about physical. So it's like, okay, they're trying to gauge how people feel about game key cards, because obviously people are outraged by it, to be honest. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it. But now you're saying they're not even mentioning physical. So now it's like, okay, y'all hate it. Would you prefer that or digital? So it's kind of like a half measure. It's like, you're going to get rid of game key cards, but then you're going to just make the game downloadable, which is what people are going to do anyway, because they're like, okay, I'm not going to trick myself into just buying some physical thing that's not really physical, or they're selling codes in a box. Like, I think this is a really, really big misstep by Nintendo, which, like, Nintendo is basically the last of the Mohicans, like the last man standing when it comes to physical games. Xbox is long gone with physical games. That next system will not have a disc drive. PlayStation is kind of holding on, but who knows where that's going to go. And then Nintendo was the last ones to not just have physical, but to have it completely on the cartridge, which we're not seeing a lot of this generation already. But then going back to it, you can see, even this is the CEO of Night Dive Studios. He said, Stephen Kick, he said, he told Game Industry that Biz that seeing Nintendo do this is a little disheartening. Would hope that a company that big, that has such a storied history, would take preservation a little more seriously. Even Alex Hutchinson, who worked on Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, things like that, he said, I hate it. I think it's sort of lame. I don't know. I just feel like it's getting in the way. Or it's getting away. We're losing some of what made the business special, trading Game Boy cartridges at school or like DS for a modern audience. There's something nice about that. And unfortunately, I mean, this is the whole conversation with physical media and everything going away. It's like, do these kids actually care about it? Or not just kids, some adults. Like, I buy digital games as well, but I also understand the value of physical. I like having the option. When you start taking options away from people, it's like, okay, now it's an issue. Having people be able to decide what they want to do is fine, but when you don't give them the option, that's where you start, losing. Now I want to move over to speaking of the game key cards and cartridges. this whole thing about, and this hasn't been confirmed by anyone yet, this was a leak, but it all makes sense when you look at everything in the landscape. But it's saying that Nintendo's only offering 64 gigabyte cartridges, which is an issue because those cost money. It's the same thing when you go back to the PlayStation 1 and the Nintendo 64 days. A big issue people had with Nintendo there was they had to use cartridges, which cost a lot of money, and they had to buy them from Nintendo. They couldn't, there's, it's not like this where they're cheaper and you could get it in bulk from whatever type of person to put your game on. You had to get cartridges from Nintendo. That's why you see some Nintendo 64 games were costing, ranging from 40 to 75 to 80 bucks. Like it was all over the place. Same with Super Nintendo. So now when it comes to third party or indie studios and stuff like that who aren't getting a full break or a full cut of the money, they're like, I'm not about to buy a 64 gigabyte cartridge, especially for maybe an indie game that's only 2 gigabytes or 5 gigabytes or 8 gigabytes. Like back on the Switch 1, they had the option of, I believe it was A16. I think that was it, like 24816, something like that. But this was the translation of the leak of that tweet. If you translate the tweet, it says, thanks to the leaks from Arc System Works, only 3 types of formats have been found to be available for games being planned for the Switch 2. Number 1, digital only, which makes sense. Then you have 64 gigabytes, so a cartridge was the full game, and then Potion, which was the codename for the game key cards that we all have come to not like at all. So again, with the less options, especially for indie studios, which have had a bunch of success on the original Switch, third parties as well, they're now coming over. They're like, all right, we could usually have these on disc or digital over on, PlayStation 4 or Steam is obviously digital, or PlayStation 5, Xbox and stuff like that. Why are we about to buy 64 gigabyte cartridges that cost, I think, 15 to 20 bucks? Then we're losing a cut for being on Nintendo. And then another thing people don't think about is if you buy these games from a retail like Walmart, Target, whatever, they're not even, the publishers aren't getting the full 60 or 70 bucks or 80 bucks of that. They're getting a portion of that too because they're selling to these retailers wholesale. They're selling them for, same thing with sneakers, right? Like Yeezys, I believe they sold for like Foot Locker for like 130 a pop for wholesale. So the shoes is costing 220, but that's not what Foot Locker's paying because they gotta make a profit. Same thing with these systems. Yeah, the retail might be 450 or 500, but they're selling them wholesale to these retailers probably for like 350 or 380 or something like that. So they're losing money or barely breaking even when it comes to this stuff. So, even limited run games in these guys, it's like, how often are they going to be able to support, these indie studios? Like, that's a lot of money that they're now going to have to shelf out, which sucks for people that like physical. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was this interview from Square Enix talking about Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D, saying that the remakes, that the DLC is locked to a specific platform, meaning if you have it on Switch 1 or Switch 2, that's it. There's no cross save, cross play. There's also no upgrade path when it comes to it. And now this is probably, I don't want to say bigger than the whole physical digital thing we were just talking about, but this is kind of crazy because we've seen with first part like Zelda, Mario, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Mario Kart Jamboree and stuff like that, that you could pay 10 bucks to get the Switch 2 version. So you could get the game used off of eBay or GameStop or whatever for 40 bucks maybe, and then pay the $10, and now you have the Switch 2 version. But now we're seeing over here, it says the Switch 1 version of the game is playable on the Switch 2 via backwards compatibility, but this version will not take advantage of the graphical upgrades found in the Switch 2 specific version. Additionally, both save files and download codes for in-game bonus items are also locked to the specific versions of the game. So even if you did start playing on Switch 1 and then decide later to repurchase, not upgrade, repurchase the Switch 2 edition for whatever reason, you need to start your whole playthrough all over again. So like, I don't know, this is probably one of the most damning things, to be honest, because we've seen PlayStation and everyone else like kind of figure this out a little bit. Yeah, they jack up the prices for the digital version because they know people are going to try and upgrade. But if you could find it physically, you're able to, upgrade for cheaper. But it says here the publisher has given no reason why the two versions of the game remain separate without a $10 paid for upgrade option. As with, and here's other things, certain third parties are doing this. So Hogwarts Legacy and Sonic Racing Crossworlds do have the ability to do the $10 upgrade. So now it's just, I'll be honest, like, yeah, the Switch has been popular. People are excited for it, but these little things, or some of them big things, it's like, it's just kind of watering down what people liked about the original Switch. This, oh, no one knows what a key card is, or digital versus this, or it's not all on the cartridge, only 64 GB cartridges, and now people don't know this, that, or third. They're defaulting to just getting it digitally, and collections are going to the wayside. Like, some people are literally skipping out on the system as a whole, and even certain games, just because they're like, okay, the reason I was getting it on the original Switch was for the collectibility. Now that's not a thing, right? And the whole not being able to upgrade, it's a little anti-consumer, I'll be honest, because if you're able to, I won't say exploit, but if you're able to take advantage of these things that the companies allow to happen, yeah, there's certain ways you can get around. Like PlayStation, when Last of Us 2 came out, I got that game for $10, but they were bumping the price on that. Or Horizon Zero Dawn, they bumped the price on that up to, like, I think $50 digital, because they knew people were going to buy it and then do the free upgrade, or the $10 upgrade. They bumped the price up. But again, you have the option of getting it physically, or you owned it already at one point. Now you could upgrade for just $10. But now we're seeing there's not going to be a lot of cohesion or rhyme or reason why this game does it or this one doesn't. And Nintendo's not going to force these companies to do that. They're just going to it seems like whatever the publishers want to do, that's what they want to do. They're not beholden to whatever Nintendo wants. And I think that's not good. Now, this is the only game we know so far that does that, but looking forward, I could see that being a real sticking point for a lot of people. But yeah, so that's everything that I was thinking about with as far as third parties going Switch 2. I mean, again, it's not all doom and gloom. Like, I think some of these games, as far as sales go, will do better over time. I also think newer games are coming day and date, instead of the games that are just ports from games that people played already. They'll do a little better. The game keycard situation, we'll see what happens with that. They might just get rid of game keycards, but that doesn't mean add the smaller size cartridges for third parties to buy. We'll have to see. And then the whole not being able to upgrade certain games, I don't know. They need to figure that out. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Do you own a Switch 2? How are you feeling about third-party games? Are you staying away from it just because it's just doing first-party only on the Switch 2, even though we begged third-party games to come over or be better versions? But now we're not even getting that. But y'all let me know in the comment section below. Again, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Check out all the links in the description. Check out my older videos. Leave a like, and I'll catch you on the next video.